Hi, I'm Justin Boyd.
I'm back after Barrel.
And I'm not into asphyliation or whatever Brady said earlier before the show started.
Asphyxiation.
Asphyxiation, yes.
And we are the Watchers in the Basement.
What a way to start. Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement. We are here today to discuss not one, but 2 episodes of The Boys. Now, you might ask, why are we doing 2 episodes? Well, last week at this time, Hurricane Beryl hit Houston, where we're located, knocked out all of our power for several days. Some of us for more days than others. Case in point, Brittany. Frank and I returned recently. We did the House of the Dragon last night episode. Brittany, you weren't able to do that. You're back finally. Tell us how you're doing after the hurricane.
Yeah, that was considering I've lived in Houston all my life, I've been through tropical storms, hurricanes, what have you, but this Cat 1 hurricane knocked out the whole city pretty much, right? 2.2 million people were without power. And like you said, some without power longer than others. We were going on almost day 7. Y'all got power back fairly quickly compared to me and internet and all that good stuff. But that was definitely not fun. We were going to leave to go to Austin, had my parents not got power. So shout out to my parents for putting up with us for the last few days. Thank you so much. Love you very much. It was not fun. Do not recommend. 0 out of 10 recommend. So y'all Californians who want to move to Texas, this is what you get to deal with when you come to Houston. Do you want to deal with it? No.
They're moving to Austin though, not Houston.
Well, that's fair. Yeah. A lot of them are also coming to Houston. Doesn't matter. Point is, hurricanes in the Gulf, not fun. I think Beryl heard a Buc-ee's and was like, shoop, going to Buc-ee's. So
there we go. Yeah.
But happy to have power. Happy to be back at home. Happy to be back with y'all to do the pod. I still have not caught up on House of the Dragon. So I need to watch that episode and then I need to go back and watch y'all's pod review because I hear great things from others who were attending the live chat. So thank y'all so much for showing love while we were recovering from Beryl. And so let's get it.
Yeah, Brittany, it's great to have you back. So once again, we're talking about season 4, episode 6 and 7 of The Boys. Now, Frank, I want to go to you because I think this is your first episode this season talking about The Boys. So, based on the first 5 episodes, what are your thoughts on the season thus far?
It's like real life. It's really symbiotic to what's going on in this country as far as like a lot of the radicalism, the politics that's going on in this country, a lot of the underlying potential genocide that we're trying to commit in other countries and within our own groups within the military and the government. They hit the nail on the head. It's almost like satire in a way of what's going on in today's world. I mean, it's a little bit close to home. It's a little bit too on point. But Ed Kripke and Seth Rogen, those guys are on par with everything. Just when you think they can't gross you out anymore, they find another level and then they exceed that. I've now learned not to eat while I'm watching The Boys. I just so happened to watch. I was eating a glazed donut as a little cheat snack in episode 6, the Web Weaver episode.
Yep.
I would never see Glaze the same way again after what I saw. It was just too much Web Weaver, bro. It was way too much. Even episode 7, it was just way too much Web Weaver. I don't think I'm touching a Shipley's donut for a good while now. But no, the season's been great, man. It's been really, really good. I haven't read the comics, so I have no touch points, no reference points per se. It's on point. I'm just really sad that next year is the last season. So I'm trying to savor every episode, every morsel of episodes that we get.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I'm right there with you. So let's go to episode 6, episode titled "Dirty Business." And Brittany, I want to start with you. What were your thoughts on this episode? Because this episode, I feel like it not only did it push the boundaries of the audience, it kind of pushed the boundaries of the characters who are in the show. And of course, it was Huey who kind of was in the, kind of in the rough spot throughout most of this episode. because a freaky billionaire had a party, and the mayhem ensued from there. What'd you think about episode 6?
I don't think I've ever had such an intense reaction to an episode, let alone The Boys, than I have with episode 6. The Tech Night episode, I think that's how we're gonna just kind of dub it.
Yeah.
It's I honestly don't think I've ever squealed, and not in a good way, okay? Like, based on the nature and theme of that episode, I have never squealed and screamed and reacted to such an episode ever in my life. And it was to the point that I was just like, this is, not only was it pushing the boundaries of just the theme of the episode for the audience, these actors to still participate in those sequences. Like, shout out to Jack Quaid, because I don't think I could have ever in a million years done what he had to do. And let's just say I'm not a fan of that kind of love. No disrespect to those who are into it. You know, you do you, and you live your best life. Frank, stop it. For you, I might change my mind. Anyway, but that being said, I was very just shocked. And I think I've been talking about this throughout the series, that I was waiting for that shock kind of value. And I think that might be it for me. It's not on the same level, of course, as like Love Sausage or the premiere for season 4, right? Like, that's hard to top, but that all was just very shocking for me, period.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It definitely kind of came out of left field with Tech Knight being, this like, he has this Tech Knight cave. Of course, Tech Knight is basically Batman in this universe. He's kind of an amalgamation of Batman and Iron Man, but I think the comics, they lean more toward the Iron Man stuff, whereas in the show it's definitely more like Batman. And
can I just interject real quick?
Sure.
Based on that knowledge alone, and for some reason I'm not able to share people's comments in the live chat. So shout out to King B Johnson and Mel of Geeking Out with Melly Mel, who are here. Thank you so much for being here. Mel says, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but I'm curious now. So Mel, this might change your mind about this whole series. But the idea that Tech Knight is kind of this version, or this universe's version of Batman, and Batman having a Bat cave, guys like to have their man cave. This gives a whole new meaning to having a man cave, y'all. Like, holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of guys have man caves for like football, like for Sundays. Not a ton of us have sex dungeons, I don't think. So I don't. So, I mean, maybe one day when I reach a certain level, but no, I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Oh my.
Honestly.
So Frank, tell us, what's your dungeon like?
Well, my man cave's on the second floor, so I'm already not on par. Like this, like I don't have a basement and like a lair. Like that was some lair shit. I don't know. Yeah. That's pretty heavy.
Yeah. It was intense. I would have never believed that the boys would go this far, and they did. They absolutely did. Mel is asking a question in the chat if this is ACOTAR Book 5. Interesting. And for those who have read Book 5, this is worse. This is worse than Book 5. Just saying. What did you just walk into, Mel? You walked into a dungeon.
Just for all the viewers and listeners out there, I think there's an issue with StreamYard. There was some kind of note when we logged in.
Yeah,
I think that's why we can't display comments, but we do appreciate your comments. So keep them coming. Brittany will relay them. I actually can't see them on my end at all. So
no worries, Justin. I am here to interject with everyone's comments. We have a comment here from I believe Clovis. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Who says, very cool channel name, liked and subscribed. Big hug from Brazil. So
wow,
thank you so much. Thank you.
Appreciate
So obrigado.
Neymar is a great footballer. Neymar.
Hey. Yes.
That's all I know about Brazil. Oh, and the Fast and Furious. Fast and Furious, of course. huge Brazil movie, right? They're all
Oh
over
yeah, there you
Brazil.
go.
Fast
Dante.
Five. Yeah,
Gotta
there we
love
go.
Dante. Anyway,
There we go. Yeah, we appreciate the new viewer. Awesome.
thank you so much for being here.
Let's start off. We talked about Tech Knight a little bit, but let's talk about Web Weaver. And I want to talk about this character because obviously this character is the boys' version of Spider-Man. I think it's interesting on a number of levels because the boys is a Sony Pictures production, which Sony makes the Spider-Man movies. That's kind of interesting. Even down to, I mean, obviously the colors are different. Web Weaver has like a green and gold or green and black look, but and Frank, maybe you notice this. I like how Web Weaver in his mask, he had like the shades and the eye holes like the Amazing Spider-Man, like what Andrew Garfield had in the first movie. Did you notice that? Like it was very Spider-Man-ish. I mean, obviously like drugstore version of Spider-Man or but still we got some Spider-Man.
I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I was so distracted by his powers and like his weirdness that I didn't even connect the correlation. It was just too much. Like,
yeah,
maybe I'm tripping. Was that an asshole they show? Is that how he dispersed his web, or was that like an extra like?
He's got a web hole.
That's his extra hole.
He's got a web hole above his ass. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was weird, bro. Definitely was weird. I had no idea that was a Spider-Man correlation. That was like if like the radioactive spider bit his asshole and like and that's where it entered. That's where it enters. Like I totally didn't like that correlation, but it makes sense.
That might be the origin story. Maybe we'll get that in a future season or something.
Can I just say, I think it's better that they did that above his ass than to do it out of his pee-pee hole.
That
would have been really bad.
I agree.
You wouldn't know what's what.
Yeah. There are a lot of Spider-Man references in this episode. Obviously, we find out later that his safe word is Zendaya, which was such a funny line.
Yo, I want her to like react to that. Like, I need someone to show her the episode and give her like, hey, this is just a different universe with basically the similar superheroes, and the safe word for this one dude is your name. Like, I need a reaction from her.
Yeah. And I just like real quick, I wanted to touch on all the superhero stuff because we have this world's Spider-Man who's going to this party hosted by this world's Batman. And Batman wants to make Spider-Man his sidekick, which is funny in our world because Spider-Man is the number one character in comics and Batman's like kind of number two. But in this world, Batman's trying to make Spider-Man his Robin. So I love that stuff. And I love the fact that we get Homelander talking with Tech Knight and Tech Knight's saying like, oh, the two top heroes. He's like, I can smell a team up, and Homelander like shoots it down. So we get a Batman v Superman kind of in this episode also, with Homelander obviously being Superman and Tech Knight is Batman. So I love how like last season how we had basically Soldier Boy is Captain America. It turns out that Soldier Boy is Homelander's dad, which would be like Captain America being Superman's father, which doesn't make any sense. But I love the crossover superhero stuff. In addition to all the debauchery, which is what the boys is basically known for. It's almost known for that more than superhero stuff.
Well, it's so crazy to me that they can get away with doing all of these like imaginations and like remixes of like characters from like DC and like Marvel. Because I know when I was a kid, man, like the Thanos Dark Side thing, the Deadpool, I forgot Deadpool's alter
Wade
ego.
Wilson. No, never mind.
Yeah, Slade Wilson and Wade Wilson. Like DC and Marvel like were just going back and forth suing each other over these copyright characters, and like here comes the boys Sony, and they're just like, fuck it, we finna just do the most fucked up version of characters from either side of these comic books, and like DC Marvel just cool with it. I guess it's amazing to me.
Yeah, I think there's some parody obviously that's like involved with this, and I think you can kind of get away with it that way. And in comics, there are a lot of characters that are like kind of like Superman. I mean, there's a ton of them. Invincible's got a Superman. Like Marvel has a Superman. In what's his name? He's going to be in the Thunderbolts. I can't think of the character's name, but
Sentry.
Yeah, Sentry. He wears blue and yellow. Yeah. So there's a lot of similarities in comics. Honestly,
I think the Eternals reference to Superman in their movie. So
Icarus,
yeah, it's like Icarus
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Gotta love Rob Stark. Continue.
But I've never seen a knockoff Spider-Man. So having Webweaver was a treat. And then like the character that plays Webweaver is this like, this like junkie basically. And MM's trying to get the suit from him. So he brings him like some drugs. The guy's like, he's like, shoot it up my pooper, dog. Like, it was just, I don't know.
It was so disturbing. Truly.
Yeah, and that's how the episode started. You're just like, wow, this is how we're starting.
This is setting the tone.
Yeah,
we should have known better. Should have known better.
Los Alonso and Jack Quaid, man, are. I give them a lot of credit because they've been put in some fucked up scenes and situations throughout the series. Like I think Los Alonso has been cummed on or sprayed on at least 3 or 4 times throughout this series. The Jack Quaid shit with being tied up on that damn torture table or torture bench or whatever. Like if I'm Jack Quaid, I'm saying to Seth Rogen and Kripke, I am acting royalty. My mother is
Meg Ryan.
Meg Ryan, and my dad is Dennis Quaid. How fucking dare you put this shit in my warehouse? So I give him a lot of credit, man, for lowering down the quality of acting expectations and like doing the fuck shit for this show.
Counter argument. He requested to do it. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I mean,
he said what?
I said maybe he requested to do it. He's like, yeah, bring it on. Like I'm into that shit. Let's go. No, I honestly don't know. You never know. You never know because actors like to, test the boundaries and see just, how they'll do in situations that make them uncomfortable or comfortable. I don't know. I don't know his life. I was flabbergasted when I learned that he in real life is dating the actress that plays Victoria Newman. So, to each their own. But
they booed up. Like it's all over his Instagram. They booed up for real.
Yeah, for real. So, I mean, kudos to them. Wish them all the best. If that's something that's like is part of their relationship now, cool.
Yeah, let's talk about Ashley's role in this episode because I did not see. I mean, I guess I should have seen Ashley as a dominatrix because she did the same stuff with Cameron Coleman. I did not expect to see her be Tech Knight's on-call
Dom.
Yeah. And what we saw with that, because just like a little, just kind of like a little leadway here. We got Tech Knight has this party. He, it's like a party for billionaires, and the Seven is there, and they're trying to like get the support of these billionaires. So eventually it can basically take over the country, take over the world. And Tech Knight is looking to get a new sidekick, he says, but then he kind of lures Webweaver, who, obviously it's Huey's dressed as Webweaver, to his tech cave. And then, like I said, it's a sex dungeon. And then Ashley's brought in to torture Webweaver. Frank, what'd you think about the Ashley as a dominatrix stuff?
It was something. I don't know how to. I mean, like, I guess I shouldn't be surprised because like now we're just with Coleman, but like the other guy from the previous season with the one of the directors, the hair pulling and all that shit. Like she's been showing a lot of like freaky shit for a while now, so I shouldn't be surprised. But it's like she topped this one, man. I mean the urination. I think what killed me and what made me squirrel, as Brittany Pilati said, was when she got done urinating and coming, I think, at the same time. And like Tech Knight tells her, go up there, go back upstairs and get hydrated. Like,
replenish your fluids.
More? Yeah. What the fuck? Like, that wasn't enough. And then she wipes the ammonia of the urine over the face of Jack Quaid's character. I'm just kind of like, what the fuck is Tech Knight into, bro? Like, this is weird as shit. And then, like, he got his other former sidekick tied up watching all this shit. Like, I don't know if he's a prisoner or he's role playing too, but it's like, it was like watching a really bad low budget porn from like the 90s, man. It was really, really weird. I did not know how to take this.
Were you waiting for?
Oh, Ashley, yes.
Yeah. Were you waiting for Ron Jeremy to show up? Shit.
Ron Jeremy, Jen Jameson, the whole crew, man. It was really, really, it was a lot. It was
My God.
really, really a lot. Like, yeah.
Ashley.
Yes, Ashley. Yeah. I guess great job by Ashley with the acting. I don't really know how to. I don't know how to classify it. The shock value was there. It was very shocking. And look, I don't kink shame. Like live your life. My jaw has dropped a few times in this episode, and I'm into a lot of shit. That was a lot.
I'm not sure how we can top Frank's comments, other than just saying, to reiterate, I have never squealed and screamed as much as I have with any show, any movie for that matter, any scary movie. And I don't do scary movies. Okay.
Yeah.
This episode just took everything to a whole other level. And I mean, it pushed the boundaries for across the board.
Yeah. Well, obviously the real web weaver must be into this stuff to a certain degree, because Tech Knight is trying to push him to his limits, and he keeps saying like, what's your safe word, and like Jack Quaid is like, he's like spider web or tarantula, or and then like the final he's like lube, and then when he says that, Tech Knight discovers that it's not actually Web Weaver who's in the costume, it's Huey. And by the way, I want to point out that Tech Knight has he's described as being like Sherlock Holmes on meth. So, so Brittany, what do you think about that? I know you're a big Sherlock fan. What do you think about his powers of, how he can read anything, and like a drop of sweat, he can tell what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently with Huey having to wear Web Weaver's costume, it masked his own scent and what have you, but it didn't mask his heartbeat, tremors that he had obviously in his hand. And that's the curious thing, kind of like Homelander as well. This is where I go back to suggest that there's some, plot holes in this storyline, because with A-Train being the leak and Homelander having these meetings and trying to figure out who the leak is, it's like, couldn't Homelander read the change in heart rate with A-Train and all this other stuff? Because, when you get nervous, that thing happens. Same thing with Tech Knight. He noticed the little subtle changes within Huey, but still didn't really confirm whether or not it was Web Weaver or not. So I think it's super cool that a person without superpowers can be that observant and can notice, things like that. Can't read, vitals, obviously, which would be fantastic if we could. But I think the comparison of Sherlock Holmes on meth is really interesting, because Sherlock Holmes did have a drug problem. That's what made him him. Yeah. So brilliant. Loved it.
Yeah, I should point out the reason why Huey is there is he's trying to, basically spy on the Seven, get some information for the boys. But once the boys figure out hey, Newman's there, they didn't think the Seven were going to be there. And then once they find out the Seven are there and Newman's there, they're like, we got to go save Huey. So, Starlight, Kamiko make their way in. So does MM. We get MM shooting Sage in the brain, which that's the only way to you can kill her, but he shot her right in the head, which I don't know about you, Frank, but when I first saw that, I thought, oh, they're going to kill her right here. And then I realized, oh, he shot her in the head. Then of course, when he shoots her in the head, all it does is kind of make her dumb for a little bit until her brain grows back. What have you thought about Sage this season and just her in this episode? Because she was supposed to be a key player at this party. She was going to be the one to kind of pull all these billionaires to the Seven side and explain what their plan was. But because her brain was blown out, she couldn't help.
Yeah, I love Sage's character. I love her arc in this series or in this season. That part bothered me, because if she's the nucleus of trying to convince all these powerful billionaires and government officials, why the fuck is she leaving the room? She should be there the whole fucking time. Why would you even risk not having her there to explain or persuade all of these high rollers to convince them to create these prison camps and take over the world and all that kind of stuff. So I thought the placement of her was kind of weird. Like, I mean, the lobotomizing of her brain, her fucking, the deep and all of that. Like I get all of that. Like, she's so smart, she's so gifted that sometimes that comes as a curse because like she just knows everything and sometimes to stop her brain from racing, to shoot herself in the head or stab herself in the eye, it makes sense. But for that juncture, for the importance of trying to sway that crowd, she should have never left that room to begin with. Like, she should have been in that room the whole time. So I thought that was kind of weird for her character in that moment.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's almost like they kind of have to do things to advance the story because, like, strategically, it doesn't really make sense for her to, be anywhere. I mean, she kind of needs to be protected, given that she's so vital to the plan. And I mean, it basically is her plan that they're trying to, enact here. One thing that I thought was pretty cool was whenever they shoot her in the head, and then the boys they're trying to find their way down to the tech cave, and Kimiko comes in and she gets A-Train because after MM shoots Sage, he has a panic attack and just like falls to the ground, which in the moment we don't know it's a panic attack. It could be like a heart attack or whatever. And so he drops to the ground. So Kimiko gets A-Train to help out. And I like the scene where she's like using the books from Tech Knight's library to communicate with A-Train because she can't speak. Brittany, just walk us through that. What'd you think about that scene?
I think it's really interesting that just the appropriate book titles were in that library.
Yeah.
Right. For her to make her point, and how she just went to the right pile to go sort through and find something that pertained to the point that she was trying to make, which was, and I can't remember the titles off the top of my head, of course, but it was like something about hospital or emergency, and then for
sake of her daughter or whatever,
sake of my daughter or sake of his daughter or something along the lines, just obviously making the point. But I was just like, oh, this is just very timely, of course, that she finds the right titles and what have you, because she had lost her phone trying to climb up discreetly into Tech Knight's mansion, and it fell, it broke, what have you. Otherwise, that would have been the way that she would communicate to A-Train, is texting. But with all that, I felt for MM because he's trying to be leader of the boys right now because they demoted Butcher, right? They're reporting to the CIA. He's got a lot on his shoulders. That's also partly the reason why his physique has changed, because he's so stressed, he's not eating as much and what have you. And he's also trying to keep his family safe, his ex-wife and his daughter safe. So when you're under that much stress, and I speak from experience, okay, I had like a major panic attack to where I thought it was a silent heart attack that led me to the ER. And it's legit. It's scary because you just don't know what the thing is going to be to put you in that state of mind, and then your body starts shutting down on you. It's a really scary thing. So for that panic attack to occur for MM, it's like his wake-up call that he needs to take a step back, because all of this, what's going on with the boys, is maybe going to kill him in one fashion or another. I don't know. It's sad. It's scary. I love MM. I was like, oh my God, please let him survive this season. But with Kimiko, of course, just coming to the rescue, even though she can't speak, she finds all the right books to persuade A-Train to pick him up and run him to the hospital, which that scene I think was really sweet. Like I really like that A-Train kind of got like a hero moment scene, like a true hero moment scene. That was really cool.
And to add to that too, I watched a podcast a few weeks ago that Alonso called in on, and the guy asked him the question like, "Hey, because Alonso is a husky guy naturally. Like he lifts weights. He's in good shape. He's pushing 50. Like he's He's been in the game acting since like the last 20 years plus. And the guy asked him, like, man, the weight loss, was that planned, or was that something that that naturally happened prior to the show? He's like, no, man, like, and I love the dance about lies. Like he pretty much said in jest, like, I wanted to show like how much of the job of being leader of the boys was weighing on him. So it was my idea. I went to Eric, I went to the producers and told them, hey man, I want to lose 30 pounds. I want to lose it. I want to show how this job is weighing on me. And that was totally my idea. I typically carry myself in a husky manner, is what he was saying. And man, the method acting and the seriousness that Lies took for this role this season, just showing the stress. Like people forget, like, most of the boys, that team is human. So like, to see how all of this is weighing on them is constant, just it's one thing to another, you know, world threats, global threats with these soups. And I'm glad that he did go an extra mile of like showing how MM is just mentally and physically distraught from all of this.
Yeah, that's good to know about that, because I didn't know what that information you just told us, and that's, you know, I'm glad that Alonso decided to do that on his own, and it wasn't like a health issue, because obviously he looks considerably different than he has in the previous 3 seasons, and I think everyone, you know, notices that. I mean, I think in the first episode of the season they even kind of referenced that right away about how he needs to eat something, you know, that they give him some, like, a sandwich or something. So it's good to know that he's like, you know, this is his decision. He's, like you said, it's kind of a method acting kind of thing, trying to bring something different to the table. And he's been great. I mean, he is like, it's funny because like he's like the leader of the boys who doesn't want to be the leader of the boys, who ends up being the leader of the boys. Like in every episode, it's like he's got it, doesn't want it, will give it to Butcher, gets it back because he's the only one that can do it. So his arc is kind of circular, but he's doing a great job, and obviously he's a crucial character to the story. And Brittany, as you mentioned, A-Train does get a hero moment. He takes MM to the hospital, and one little kid just sees A-Train, you know, saving the day, and it's not a fake Vought, you know, produced save. It's a real save. And we see in the next episode how much that means to A-Train, you know. So we're seeing like his kind of face turn, him becoming, you know, a good guy. Obviously, he kind of has no choice because, you know, he is the leak, he is the mole. Although, you know, at this point in the show, they don't know that yet. The 7 don't, but they will very soon. Continue with go ahead, Frank.
Here's another plot device that I kind of have an issue with.
Yep.
with the show. The 7, they have trackers on them, right? Like that. So like he's leaving 7 Tower. He's meeting people in different places, you know, MM and the boys, all these places. Like, if there's a leak going on, you wouldn't think that Homelander and like the security team will like keep a closer track of their heroes as they come and go out of the tower?
Great point. No, it's a great point. I don't think there's even a way to refute that. Like, because in the next episode, Ashley tells him to cut his tracker out or cut his whatever device out. So you're right. I mean, well, they could obviously know, you know, even if he's super speeds, I'm sure they can kind of pinpoint where he was.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a run to Vancouver, Canada, in order to talk to MM on the phone without being followed. Remember? So like, yeah, that's an interesting point, Frank. That's a really great question as to why Vought wouldn't keep a tighter leash on their soups if there is a leak in the premises or on the premises, you know, especially with Homelander, who's like trying to, you know, call all the shots, right? He and Sage have demoted Ashley, you know, from CEO. She's just a mascot. And Homelander is also just trying to get the cooperation of all these 1%ers to go with this plan, right? To overthrow the president-elect. And there was a moment with Victoria Newman, who was like unsure about her role in all of this, and Sage like persuades her that it's, you know, women throughout history basically have not been taken seriously and not been given the chance. You know, now this is our opportunity to actually like rise up and be taken seriously, to be heard. And that was enough for Victoria to, decide and choose her side.
Yeah, and in that moment, Homelander, Sage was supposed to be the one to deliver the speech to get these 1%ers on their side, and because she has the brain injury, she can't do anything. She can't help it out at all. Homelander decides, well, I'll do it myself, but all he can spout is like the talking points from their TV channel, and these billionaires are like, yeah, save us the TV garbage. Like we have real questions, and he doesn't have any answers. And then Newman steps up. Obviously, she's Robert Singer, who's the president in this world. She's gonna be the VP, and so she steps up and she explains, like, hey, like, America is not a democracy. Like, the founders never trusted the masses because the masses are stupid, and people are just labor force. And you're the corporations are the real superpowers, right? So, so she kind of gets them on the back on their side, whereas Homelander, he's, and then we see Homelander kind of break down in the moment. He doesn't like, I mean, obviously Newman saves him in the eyes of these billionaires, but he doesn't like being made to look small, and like he's he's reverting back to old Homelander, which leads us right to Firecracker. Firecracker steps up and she becomes Homelander's new mommy. Frank, you want to talk about that scene? I did not see that coming either. As
what the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Well, you want to talk about that scene, Frank?
Like, I'm so attacked.
I mean,
it'll be accurate, but still.
I didn't have Firecracker spraying Homelander in the face with breast milk on my bingo card for this episode. I honestly did not see that coming. That was like, what the hell?
Don't worry, Homelander didn't see that coming either.
Definitely. That might have been the most normalized kink in the whole episode, as far as like things that didn't really gross me out too much. Like, I was like, okay. I mean,
no, I wasn't grossed out. I was just surprised. I was like, wow, like now, like this is, because we're led to believe in previous episodes that Homelander's like, he's moved on. He's basically shed his human weaknesses or whatever, and he's going to be above it. He's going to teach Ryan, that they can do whatever they want. And then almost immediately he reverts back to, wanting breast milk. So
I don't know how Firecracker found out about that, because that's a ballsy move. Like,
right?
Did you get tipped off? Did you look into some files? Like, how did you know? Like, because I believe if I remember correctly, she said that she was taking like hormones to like produce breast milk.
Right.
Like, how do you know that Homelander's into that to even want to do that? Like, that's a ballsy move. Like, that's a fine line of like breastfeeding and getting your tits lasered off. Like, I don't know how she figured out that was like going to work for him. It was probably the most normal scene in that episode. Like, I was like, I mean, this is what Homelander is. Like, he is an insecure man-child who needs constant cuddling, not just emotionally, but physically as well. And since Stillwell and that Stillwell doppelganger, he hasn't had that for a few seasons now. So, for a guy who was the world's a test tube baby who was pretty much harvested in the lab with no mommy, no sense of a childhood. Everything was implemented artificially. Like, that doesn't go away. Like, it's kind of like how you watch children who are psychologically distraught from like the childhood of like, torture from like, like a parent's abuse of any kind. That shit sticks with you in some form of fashion. And with Homelander, was that episode 4 where he pretty much goes back to the lab and decimates everybody and everything in that lab? Like, that's him still carrying that hate and that frustration of like how he was treated and embarrassed and pretty much treated like a machine, a weapon. That's how he was raised, right? And this is the result of it. And for Firecracker to go on a limb and do that, I mean, now she pretty much has found her end. She's found her her role in the team per se, because I mean she's not like a robust superhero. Like she's a rightist who this Trump like.
She's a pedophile, Frank. Okay, she's a pedophile. She's a pedophile. She probably learned it from one of the minors that was into that.
You're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So
you're right. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Yeah. So I mean, so with that on the Firecrackers file, I mean, it's like a match made in heaven. But nah, that doesn't ever go away if you're Homelander. That's just who he is. And like anytime that he gets bested or gets embarrassed, I mean, before he destroys the world or destroys anything in his path, he needs to be pacified, literally, to like kind of stay off the path of like destruction.
Jesus, when you just said pacified, you know what it made me think of? Because I just watched the movie over the weekend. Liar, Liar, Jim Carrey. He sees the big tittied woman in the elevator, and he goes, "Mama." That's what popped in my head when you just said that. Also, another story about breast milk and coffee. That's not for sharing here on our pod. The guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I was not expecting that, but it does obviously make sense because in the trailer, in Firecracker's trailer, when the boys were kind of scoping things out, that was it Frenchie? I think it was Frenchie that came across the pill bottle for the pills that Firecracker is taking to produce said breast milk because she's not pregnant, right? And the shock on Homelander's face and just how quickly he just melted, into her bosom and just reverted back to like what you said, Justin, to his old ways, to the old Homelander that needs to be coddled and needs to have the things that he so greatly lacked as a child. And so now, with that being said, at that moment, it was like, okay, well, Firecracker is going to be at the forefront. Sage is going to be pushed aside. Like there's no question in my mind. One question I was going to pose, of course, before knowing that we were going to do 2 episodes in one, I was concerned about Sage with the bullet in her brain, because if anything, if the brain were to heal, would it heal around the bullet and therefore impairing her and her intellect, right? But then that obviously got answered with this latest episode, so it hasn't seemed to impact her. Because remember, she said if she gets shot or impaled in the heart, you can kill her, just not in the brain.
Yeah, it's and to go back to what you said about Firecracker, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall on how many takes that took.
I'm sure you would.
To like, because like Antony Starr is a great actor. Like I watching this series, he's legit. He's gonna be an A-lister once this show is over with, right? There had to have been at least 35, 40 takes to like get that right. Like the facial expression that he made when the titty milk hit his face, like it was like, oh, like it was just so matter of factly, like, oh, bitch, you down? Okay, like it was so matter of factly, and like I know he had cracked a smile or gagged or laughed at least 20 times. That's a crazy scene.
Could you imagine the table read? Like when they're reading through the script and Antony's like, what? Like in his wonderful New Zealand Kiwi accent, like just hearing him just go off about this, like, what are we doing?
Well, I think for Antony Starr, he's probably like, oh, cool, season 1 over again. For Firecracker's character, she's probably like, what? I'm breastfeeding this grown man? Like that's it was probably more shocking for her than it was for Antony.
Welcome to the boys.
Yeah, but she definitely has found her role within the team. She's made herself invaluable to Homelander, which, good way to keep yourself alive, in this world. But speaking of a character who's not alive, and Brittany, we were on this from, I think, episode 1 or 2. That is Mr. Joe Kessler. Joe Kessler is in fact not a real person in this world
anymore.
He is he's a hallucination of Butcher, and I love how they revealed that. Whereas all season long, Becca is like the good angel on his shoulder, telling him to do the right thing. Kessler's is the devil on his shoulder, who's telling him, no, kill all these soups, kill everybody. Like this is what you really want to do. I know who you are really.
Yeah.
And then in that moment, whenever they start, when Kessler talks to Becca, which, Butcher's like,
shut up, you bitch.
Right. He's like, you can see her.
Mm-hmm.
We find out that, Joe Kessler actually died on a mission and Butcher was not able to save him years in the past.
Yeah.
And I thought this was very creative, how they shot the scenes of all of the scenes that Jeffrey Dean Morgan plays Kessler. They shot with him and then they shot it without him. And they show us those scenes on the park bench where he's talking to Kessler or, at the table at work where he's pouring him a drink or whatever. And he's just pouring it on the table. Like, I love how creative that was to show like this has all been in his head. What are your thoughts on the fact that we got it right, and also just how they played that story out, that storyline?
I think it was a really beautiful reveal. Like, we already had an inkling, like, you, Tristan, and myself, and I'm sure Frank, I think this is maybe your first pod joining us for the boys, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and it's funny, and I'm going to speak to Frank directly because we were covering Interview with a Vampire, where a similar sequence was happening with the main character, Louis, who was seeing a ghost-like of his past lover. So I'm like, oh, wow, this is really interesting that both these shows were airing simultaneously and both kind of had a similar situation happening. So, but having the Becca as like the good angel on the shoulder on one, and then Kessler, the sort of, bad angel, devil like on the other shoulder, and pinning Butcher up against the wall, really, to do what he said he promised Becca, to protect Ryan and to, go all about that. But then you have Kessler, who also revealed that he is the thing that lives within Butcher that came out and obliterated Ezekiel. So that is wild. Like, that I was not expecting. I mean, I was expecting, of course, Kessler to not be a real person, but I wasn't expecting that added element to be the thing that lives within Butcher and that comes out when when it's needed. But I will give Jeffrey Dean Morgan this. I will say him with the callback. I think it was from season 3 of Don't You Worry, Daddy's here. And I was just like, he said the thing that Butcher said to Huey when they were, shit was gonna get crazy.
Right. Yeah.
He repeated that same line. I think it's incredible. I really did enjoy the reveal, especially when you have your two hallucinations address one another and you, the physical being, are shocked, which it was just so great. It was really well done.
Yeah, it was the twist of the season, but like I said, we kind of saw it coming, but the way they revealed it was very creative. Frank, you have any thoughts on Kessler being a figment of Butcher's imagination?
Man, I think Brittany hit it around the head. It not just Louis from the Interview with the Vampire. It gave me a lot of Damon Targaryen as well. A lot of guilt. Like I don't think he's ever dealt with like losing Becca twice. You know what I'm saying? Like he lost Becca, for those 7 years that she was gone, and then lose Becca in that tragic way that he did, trying to save Ryan. He never dealt with that. Like, he went right back to work. You know what I'm saying? And then to take that hate on Ryan and lash out on Ryan like he did last season, and then to lose Ryan as well. He's lost like 4 times within his own family structure, and he's never dealt with that. And I think the Kessler conscience is like the side that's lashing out to all that loss and not dealing with that loss. And that's what it looks like. And the Becca part of his conscience is like trying to reel him back in and let him know, hey man, all that loss, don't let all that loss go in vain. So he's being pulled by two not I won't say extremes, because I don't think Becca's extreme at all, but like two consciousnesses at one time. And I think it's gonna tear him apart when the series is all over with. But I think the only thing that can really save him, man, is securing Ryan's future and make sure Ryan doesn't come out another Homelander. And I think that Ryan, the humanity that's left in Butcher is the part that's clinging on to trying to save Ryan. Because if let's say I don't know what happens, I didn't even read the comic books, but let's say Ryan does become Homelander, then I think Butcher goes over the edge, and that's the Kessler side wins, right? So I think Ryan's the key to like saving Butcher's humanity.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And that's concerning given the nature that Butcher has actually, kidnapped Dr. Samir, right? He chopped off his leg, but he kidnapped him so that he can make the virus. He can make the virus that would be strong enough to kill Homelander. But the doctor reveals that it's not containable. It would basically be a genocide on Soup. So therefore threatening Ryan, Starlight, Kimiko, still not knowing if it would be strong enough to knock out Homelander or not, but it for sure could knock out the rest of the Soups of the world. And of course, Samir's not going to follow through with it because it threatens his family. It threatens Victoria Newman and their daughter. So yeah, that's a tall order for Butcher to try and make happen. And I mean, I don't know, would it threaten Butcher directly? I mean, yes, he's sick, he's dying, but is what's inside of him a Soup creation?
Has to be like, because he took V and he destroyed Ezekiel with ease. Like that's not human form. That's definitely something that's enhanced by V.
Yeah.
I think but I think death will be Butcher's piece. I don't think he's afraid of it. I think he comes to grip with it. But before he dies, he has to get what's right with Ryan first and secure that Ryan is okay. But I think Butcher wants to die. I think the beat that he took earlier in the season, and I'm sure I talked about this earlier in past episodes, but I think the V is the extension to try to keep himself long enough to save Ryan. It's therefore that after that he has permission to die.
Yeah, we kind of did talk on how it's similar to like that of Deadpool, like his mutation with the cancer. Like the cancer is constantly still working, but the mutation is constantly like fighting it back. So therefore, it's like killing him, but it's keeping him alive at the same time.
Yeah, just a couple more things on this episode before we move on to episode 7. What did you think about Kimiko and Frenchie? Brittany, I'll go to you about this. We get Frenchie, in the previous episode, he turns himself in, so it kind of takes him off the board. Kimiko's going to visit him, and he keeps denying he doesn't want to see her, basically.
Broke my heart.
Yeah.
It really broke my heart. I mean, they're not like intimate, right? They're not lovers. They're not, in a relationship, but it's like, but they are, they're really close. Obviously, they both have trauma from their past. Obviously, Frenchie is choosing to deal with it in a manner that he feels is appropriate for his crimes. Like his penance is to sit in jail and just answer for the things that he's done, right? And with Kimiko, she's not really willing to confront her past, even though her past is like literally in the same city with her. But for her wanting to reach out to Frenchie and to be there for him, and then him to turn her away, absolutely broke my heart, especially to the point where she tells the I say the jailer because I don't know the right term, but the officer at the prison, which by the way, that's an important detail too that we haven't talked about yet, that Kimiko tells her, I have nowhere else to go. And I'm like, Frenchie's her home. Like she has found a home in Frenchie, and it absolutely destroyed me. Like, I love Frenchie. I love Kimiko. I love their like relationship. But that absolutely destroyed me.
Yeah, you were talking about the prison stuff. Tech Knight, his family is in the prison business. Basically, they have all these. They run these penitentiaries all around the country, and that's how he's.
Good God.
That's how he's amassed his wealth. And I should point out that Tech Knight did not make it out of this episode. He died, and I love how he died at the hands of his own butler, Elijah. His Alfred-like butler who strangles him while he's tied up anyway.
Make it look like an accident. David
Right.
Carradine was one of his idols.
Yeah.
And now Frank's intro has come full circle.
I'm not a fan of the butler, bro. That's when you draw the line. That's when you draw the line, bro. I'm sure you've heard every single racial term, discrimination, just fuck shit over the last, I don't know how old Tech Nine is, maybe 35, 40 years that he's been taking care of Tech Nine, and that's when you draw the line. You should have been put this motherfucker out of his misery. How many times has this butler had Tech Nine straddled on a torture table or tied up to where he could have just offed him any chance he got? And that's when that's the time you do it. That late in the game, like, come on, bro. Like, by the way, one of my favorite lines is one of the most racist shit I've ever heard in my life. When he's talking to A-Train, he's like, "You're fast, but we want to catch you." Like, it's like we're talking about the prisons and his forefathers and his his ancestors before him, and A-Train's like, I guess we'll never know. I'm like, bro, that is some like fucked up. That shit was. I'm sorry. As a black man, I was highly offended and highly laughed my ass off at the same fucking time. Oh, like that was funny as shit. I think for comedy to be daring, you have to push the envelope. You have to take risk, and that joke hit. I'm sorry, that was a funny ass line.
Yeah.
And the boys, pushes the envelope, pushes everything, and pushes it in all kinds of places. Is there anything else y'all want to talk about from this episode before we move on to episode 7?
Well, the fact that it sounds like the plan is to imprison people.
Yeah.
Right. My understanding is the humans. They're going to put them in internment camps. So we've got history repeating itself. It sounds like. It's pretty awful what's suggested to be done to deal with the world, or at least America, in order to get Robert Singer out and Victoria Newman in. It's nuts. It's crazy.
Yeah. No doubt. So let's move on to episode 7. Episode 7, the title, The Insider. There's so much to talk about in this episode. Also, we start off with Ryan and the Avenue V Christmas special, which Avenue V, if you remember from Gen V, is the Sesame Street puppet show. And we get the See Something, Say Something song, which we have the great first line of the opening thing of the special, where it's like, A-Train, why the long face? He's like, Antifa.
I mean, it's really funny to me still. I think the fact that at this point the show is really making fun of itself, because the fact that so many of the audience now are just picking up on the whole, like, the boys is making fun of not just, one political party. They're making fun of both sides, right? And they've done that since day one. It's never been a brand new thing. And I think at this point they're openly addressing, the topics of the right and what have you, and making it into like a song, some sort of jingle, and with puppets, and it's supposed to be cute, and it's supposed to be like Christmas time, and you can see just how uncomfortable Ryan is. First of all, Ryan is what, 10, 12 at this point. I mean, I'm not sure how much time would necessarily have passed since the first time we met him. I think he was supposed to be 8 when we first met him. And let's say he's now 10. He's a fucking giant to be 10 years old, let me just say. And that's because I'm a short person, so everyone's tall compared to me. But I'm like, why are you putting this kid through this whole ordeal? I would be uncomfortable as fuck. So he had to be uncomfortable. And the message that they're sending out to basically, if you see something, say something, even if it's your parents, say it. Nuts.
Yeah, and Ryan, he's fed up with it. He doesn't want to do it. He interrupts the show. He says, your family isn't your enemy. Your family's all you got. He talks about his mom. He talks about Butcher. And he said, his mom always told him to tell the truth, which is why. and he says, "I'm sorry." Frank, what do you think he was gonna say? He stopped himself from saying, telling the truth. Like, do you have any guesses of what he was gonna say to the audience and maybe reveal the truth about Vaught, about Homelander, like that it's all kind of bullshit? Like, what do you think was coming out from what Ryan was gonna say?
I have a couple of theories. I think because it's not like he's about to say something about himself, and it sounded like he was about to say sorry, but I am against everything that Bar has to say, and I'm fighting for the good guys, and I'm leaving the situation. Or I thought he might out his father Homelander,
Yeah.
you know, pretty much call him a murderer, evil man, and all that kind of stuff. So I thought it was one of those two things, because like the portrait that he got from Butcher of Becca and I think it was Becca and Butcher on that picture. I couldn't still tell who the guy was. That was
It was
Butcher
Becca, Butcher, and their dog.
and their dog, right?
Mhm.
So like for me, it gave a sense of like what kind of family like that Ryan will want to have or he was gunning for compared to what he has now with Homelander. And I think when Butcher sent him that gift, it was to say, hey man, don't forget your beginnings, don't forget what your mother instilled in you. This is not what your mother wanted, and this picture is the family that is the life that your mother wanted you to have. And what you have with Butcher, what you have with Homelander, that's just not it. So I thought he was going to like say a combination of like, this is not the life I would want. I want to go back to Butcher, or I want to go back to, I forgot who it, not Stillwell, the lady.
Mallory.
Mallory.
There you go. Yeah, maybe mention Mallory or something like that. But I think it has something to do with symbols of like family or like normalcy within a family.
Yeah, that's a good guess. Brittany, any thoughts on the Ryan situation? Where do you see it going? Maybe you have a prediction for Ryan?
Unless he was going to reveal the plan, because I'm trying to remember, was he?
He was there. He was at the party
in the room. Yeah. So I
yeah.
was curious if maybe he was going to out the plan about what Newman and his dad and the rest of the 1%ers were going to be doing with like these internment camps, with trying to assassinate the president-elect. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not sure if it was going to be something of that nature. I wasn't quite sure the direction that was that monologue that it was taking. So I'm not sure, but he did listen, like I said, to that whole conversation. So who knows? That's a lot for a kid to carry on his shoulders.
Yeah, like I said, the episode opened with this, and then it kind of closed with this a little bit too. Originally he wasn't comfortable doing it. He called Homelander, left him a voicemail, I think, or said something about how he wasn't comfortable. We see Homelander later on calling back and be like, "Hey, bud, I'm really busy." He's like, just kind of suck it up and take one for the team and do it for me. And you can already see. Go ahead.
Sorry, Justin. Yeah. Which was completely contrary to what Homelander had told Ryan. He's like, I don't want you to do the things or grow up the way that I grew up, where I had no choice. I want you to be able to voice, your feelings and your thoughts. And if you don't want to do something, then it's okay. You don't have to do it. And like you said, Homelander, as soon as he gets some titty milk, he goes back to who he was. And
yeah, he reverts back. Frank. He keeps reverting back. It's so weird because every time you think the character is growing, whether it's obviously good or bad, and with him, it's always going to be bad. He always comes back to who he always was. It seems like to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And I think for Ryan, that realization of, as soon as he gets that realization from his dad that like, okay, what I really want doesn't matter. And even though he was sent a message sent a package from Butcher with the wonderful name of don't be a cunt. Yeah. I think he realizes like, wow, I really missed out on having a family. Like, after my mother's death, I really could have had a family with Butcher or Mallory or whatever. Like, and that would have been a much better outcome for him than to be with his biological father. So
Yeah.
Mel in the chat here says, as soon as he got some what? I said what I said. Told you, this isn't Akatar book 5. Okay, this is wild. This is some wild shit.
Yeah, Mel, if you're not watching The Boys, you need to check it out. It's
wild.
It's different. It's not like Marvel or DC superheroes. It's
Just don't watch it with your parents or in-laws or anybody like
right.
that.
Yeah.
Watch it with me.
Right. Because transitioning from that to the Deep, who is the Aquaman of this universe, he has a lady friend who's an octopus, who's voiced by Tilda Swinton of all people, and he kills the octopus. Frank, what'd you think about the Deep? How he seems like he's kind of turning his back on the sea, and he's becoming just a full-on Homelander, Homelander. I don't know what you want to say about it. He's a killer. He'll do whatever Homelander says to do.
I mean, in Deep's defense, once you go black, it's kind of hard to go back. I mean, I get it. Sage is a hottie. I get it, especially when she's lobotomized. I mean, hey, there's so many ways you can go with that. No, but seriously though, no, that was shocking, man. Because like one thing that's been a constant with Deep all throughout the series is his affection for marine life, like real affection, like borderline, well, not borderline, bestiality affection towards marine life.
The dolphin.
Yeah, the dolphin, the octopus. I mean, yeah, like it's what that tells me too is that he's fighting his humanity. Because even when he was married, like going back and forth with is Ambrosia, is that her name?
Right.
Yeah, even going back and forth with the octopus Ambrosia with his wife, like it was a constant battle of like his identity, especially sexually, and like and he was fighting it's been a constant battle of him fighting his urges of wanting to be of the sea, literally of the sea, and be with humans. So it was kind of surprising that he threw that away for some side pussy. Like I was kind of surprised by that because like,
you mean instead of octopussy?
Exactly. Cause it'll be one thing if there was like real intimacy between him and Sage. It's just fucking, and like Sage's not even like at her regular state. She has to lobotomize herself to fuck him. And like you would think that with that being in place that Dee would be like, well, she doesn't even like the real me. Like she has to lobotomize herself. So Ambrosia loves me for me. So that was kind of a surprise to see that he killed her. Cause like in that scene, I'm thinking to myself, okay, she's taking like 4 or 5 breaths. She keeps fighting for air. Maybe he changes his mind and like puts her in the aquarium. But when he went through with it and killed her, I was really surprised by that.
Yeah, it was definitely a darker side of the Deep, like the deep, dark waters of the Deep. And seeing the actual transformation of his face, like his facial features after he went through the act of smashing the tank that's been hidden in the closet, the water rushing out, him closing the closet door and sitting there and listening to her wheeze and gasping for air. And all that was very dramatic, of course, with the whole, just like, he thinks it's over and then it's not. So it's kind of like painfully taking its time and he's having to obviously listen to it all. And then finally, when she's gone, he mourns a little bit, right? He does cry, he feels something, and then it was just like, just snap. He just totally transformed. I have to give it to Chace Crawford. Like he did the damn thing right here, and that transition from his room to listening to Homelander and just being so obedient and doing whatever it is Homelander was saying. He's like, I will murder every fucking fish in the ocean if you ask me to. And Homelander's like, okay,
Right.
attaboy, onward. It's just like, wow.
Yeah. However, later in the episode, he does get an assignment. Homelander sends the Deep and Black Noir 2 to kill Butcher and Starlight at the boys' headquarters at the Flatiron Building. This is a pretty good battle. The boys has a lot of action, but like I don't think they're known for their fight scenes. So, except for season 3 had some great stuff with the superhero stuff, but I thought this was a really like a standout battle where Black Noir and the Deep are in the office. Butcher, Starlight take the fight to them, and then A Train shows up, shows up, and it's just kind of a free for all. Frank, what did you think about this scene?
I was first of all, I didn't know Black Noir partook of fly. That was
Right.
interesting. That was the first for me.
I think he had mentioned it in another episode when he was struggling with the
Yeah.
character that is Black Noir.
Yeah,
okay. He's like, I can fly. Did you know that? Like, I can fucking fly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I must overlook that. But no, like I thought it was a great scene. I like you, Justin. I don't know how the human team members of the boys survive these fights and these battles.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me because like you're going in soups and like to be able to configure the storyline to where they avoid like their demise every single time in these battles is amazing. But you forget how durable Deep is. Like, I mean, he's such an offshoot character, and like they kind of make him a joke, but like he's really formidable. Like,
Yeah.
I think Annie hit him with a fucking weight plate, like a 45-pound weight plate, and
Right.
he was scratched. Like it was, he was like totally fine. No, but the action scene was pretty dope. I thought an A Train pretty much, unveiling himself too, and coming for the save. I love that scene because now it changes everything now moving forward. Like Deep knows, Noir knows, the rest of the 7 knows that A Train is against them. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they move forward now with A Train now pretty much being outed.
Yeah, A Train, he basically outs himself, and then early in the episode, MM's talking about, he's trying to get his family to Belize. He's trying to get his daughter and his wife or his ex-wife to leave the country. MM, in theory wants to go with them, but A Train convinces him like, you can't leave just yet. And we get a mention from the previous episode where A Train talks about his hero moment and how much that meant to him. And now he has no choice now because the 7 know, so they're going to be coming after him. So he's got to kind of be a part of this battle. And it's interesting because A Train also has these meetings with Ashley, and he's trying to tell her like, look, like you got to break away. You need to leave. And she just can't do it, can't she, Brittany? There's something about it where she can't walk away. I mean, I think she obviously thinks she's going to be killed, but like,
Yeah.
it seems like, she's been pushed aside. She doesn't really matter. And it feels like if
Right.
she wanted to walk away, they'd probably let her and they wouldn't care, but she can't leave for whatever reason.
Her guilt with giving up Coleman, what's his name?
Cameron Coleman. Yeah.
As the quote leak, right? Because there's like a news story playing of he supposedly died of an aneurysm and what have you. And she's confessing to A Train how she didn't need to give him up, right? There were other ways to get back at him, but it didn't need to be to the point of killing him, right? And so she's dealing with guilt. There's a lot of people dealing with their guilt, right? And dealing with it in various fashions. And I thought it was really interesting of A Train's character development to actually be considerate of her, right? He's confided in her as revealing some information about himself to her, that he was the leak and now she's like an accomplice or what have you, but that he's actually making efforts to try and reason with her and to get, eventually get her out, because she first had said to him, hey, let's just go. Like, I used to live in Florence. Like, let's just up and go. We'll get a flight. She's like, well, you can run. He's like, no. He goes, we can't go anywhere. Like, we just can't. He's got to stay put for his reasons. But it flips right after A-Train reveals himself to Deep and Noir. He goes to Ashley and says, okay, now's time. Like, let's go. Let's get out of here. And I thought, wow, like A-Train from season 1 would not have been that caring of another person, especially Ashley. Like, no one likes Ashley. Let's just be real. Like, had it been Popclaw, that would have been a different story, right? He would have done everything to get her out of harm's way. But Ashley, like, for him to have revealed so much to her and to kind of like work with her and whatnot, he's actively trying to be a hero, right? After seeing the look on that kid's face, and he's trying to save Ashley from her ultimate demise. But she says no. And for reasons I don't know, is interesting, because she's just keeping herself in harm's way by staying in close proximity to Homelander. Homelander knows that A-Train was the leak, right? And then things will, I'm sure, come to blow, but I'm not quite sure why Ashley would choose to stay. I mean, she's dead either way. Like, you either have a fighting chance if you're further away from Homelander and company, if you go with A-Train, but why she chose to stay, unless she's going to try to take matters into her own hands. I don't know. Girl boss, do your thing. Do your thing.
That's interesting. That might be, she might try to kill somebody. That might be her move, like why she's sticking around. It's kind of kill or be killed for Ashley. And I guess she's going to try to take somebody out with her own hands, or she's just too scared to do anything, which that might be the answer. Before it's revealed that A-Train is in fact the mole, Homelander kills another Soup who he thought was the mole. That's our guy Webweaver, who we just met in the last episode. Frank, let's talk about this. Homelander literally rips Webweaver apart. Like, it's so gruesome the way he just separates his shoulder from the rest of his body and just rips him apart. It's as far as like gruesome killings in this show, that's got to be up there, right?
Yeah, that's up there, man. I mean, in top 3 Homelander killings, man, I think Dad lasering old buddy's dick off was pretty bad. And having him bleed out, that was pretty bad. And then fucking Stillwell in season 1, like from the end, like pretty much melting her. Like, those are top 3 probably like most gruesome Homelander murders that come to mind. I don't know what Homelander was trying to get out of that. Like, I mean, Webber is a druggie. Like, he's a cast off. He's a second-rate, third-rate Soup at best. I don't know what. Maybe he just knew going into it he was going to kill him anyways, and he was just kind of just doing it for sport. But that was so pointless. Like come on. Like, I and then like to do it for the Firecracker too. I don't know. That was kind of his way of like sending a message like, if you betray me, this is what happens when you fuck me over. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, the woman that's feeding me breast milk, I'm not going to show violence in front of her. Like, that's the one person you don't show violence to. But that's neither here nor there, I guess. But yeah, that was a gruesome scene.
Yeah, and
that's the thing. You think after however many years doing this, I know better. I don't know if I'm pretty sure Homelander went into that meeting knowing that he was going to kill him regardless, because let's just face it, that's Homelander.
Yeah.
But I think he might have been pushed over the edge with the amount of web escaping Webweaver's body. Okay, let's just be real. I'm not going to go into great detail about this. However, I kind of want to believe that Homelander is a bit of a masochist, just not the Tech Knight level of what's the word, masochism. But he enjoys the kill. Like, did you see after that blood splatter went all over his face and what have you, he kind of like licked his lips in a way, like as if he enjoyed it. Like he really does enjoy that kill.
Yeah.
And especially if he thinks
he's definitely a masochist, because when they kill him, old girl, the Nazi woman, when they smash all those burglars and it was fucking in the blood in the alley in season 2,
that's
he's definitely a masochist. Like he's into all of that shit. Like
you're right. I forgot about that
sexually, yeah, for sure.
You're absolutely right. Completely forgot about that. You're talking about the old Mrs. Vought, all that stuff. Yeah, you're right. But with Homelander, I mean, he's just ready to kill. He's ready to prove a point because he truly believes he's a god and that no one is going to ever outrank him. Right? It's just sad. It's really sad. Poor sweet little boy.
Yeah, and so Webweaver's killed. They learn, how they learn who the mole is through A-Train revealing himself, which that gets back to Homelander. Homelander then decides to kick Sage out of the 7 because she hid the fact that A-Train was the mole, but that was a part of her plan. As she explains, like, A-Train was the perfect misinformation delivery system to Butcher and the CIA and Butcher and the boys. And so she was, she's always a couple steps ahead. But that's not good enough for Homelander. He tells her to go back to Detroit, kicks her out of the 7. And let's talk about Brittany. Let's talk about the scene that the Deep and Noir coming back after the fight with the boys. They're kind of banged up. They're bonding by saying bro like 6 different ways. And then go ahead.
So I'm gonna need Frank, my brother, my bro. You need to help me out with here. This is how the conversation went. Bro. And scene.
There we go. That was just like off the top of your head. Like that's improv right here. We got improv podcasting.
I was a thespian.
There you go.
Notice what I said. Thespian.
Yeah.
Once upon a time. Stop it, Frank.
I've role played thespians in my past.
Oh, I'm sure you have. In your lair, in your dungeon.
More so my second floor, but yeah. Not there per se.
Continue, Justin, please.
No, I was gonna say, if you wanted to, why don't you walk us through the Deep and Noir stumbling upon Sage, who's been sent packing, and what happens there?
Yeah, so a new bit of information was revealed in that bro moment, right? They've been bonding, and Sage walks past. She's clearly pissed, and Deep's like, hey, I've had a rough day, which is echoing back a text that Sage sent to him saying, I've had a rough day. You want to stab me in the eye and then stab me in the ass. He's basically saying, hey, I need some. And she's like, no, I've been fired, what have you. And what have you. And then Noir 2.0, who speaks, he's like, no, you can't leave because I love you. And Sage turns around like, what the hell did you just say? And then Deep's like, bro, he's like, what are you talking about? Like, have you been lobotomizing her and fucking her too? To which Noir replies with, what do you mean lobotomizing her? And then Sage just like walks off. And I'm like, okay, I knew I had a reason to feel bad for Deep. Like, she never wanted him. He wasn't the superior being that she told him, and to which he told Ambrosius or whatever the octopus's name was. Yeah. So she was getting it from both. Yeah. Bro.
Yeah. She wasn't. Yeah. She wasn't having to, dumb herself down for Black Noir 2. So, very interesting. I did not see that twist coming. I gotta say, that was pretty good.
No, that was pretty funny. But like, hey, I respect a girl who can get it like that. I'm just saying.
But you know what? To go back what Brittany was saying in episode 6, like Homelander can read like heart rate, all this shit, and like all this is going on. All this is going on probably in Seven Tower under his nose. He has no fucking idea. Like that's crazy to me. She's fucking two of your team members. And you have no fucking idea.
I guess the thought is that maybe he's so preoccupied with what's going on in his life and his
titty milk.
Well, that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so much so that he can't pay attention to, he's not using his full faculty of powers or whatever to the best of their abilities. That's got to be the only reason, because otherwise, he's like so powerful that it's kind of crazy. He could, like you said, he can hear heartbeats, and if it's whatever, it's off slightly, he knows something's adrift or whatever. And they have tracking systems like you mentioned before. So there's lots of ways that this could go wrong for the other members of the team. But thankfully Homelander's not paying attention. So I guess that's one thing we can say.
Cause like I just knew all the secret like conversations Ashley and Adrian was having, that Homelander probably overheard at least one of those conversations. And to that never coming to fruition just tells me how I guess distracted he is, because he displayed all of that in season 1. Like he was able to like kind of locate where Translucent was at, but not really, but kind of like be in the same area, and just all these crazy things that he could do, and like now all that's just like kind of fall by the wayside. It's just kind of weird.
Well, what I want to know with Sage's departure is if she anticipated that all blowing up in her face, or is this also strategically part of her plan with being fired by Homelander? Because I'm telling you, that reference of Julius Caesar, right? And you have a Brutus. If she is now going to invoke the role of Brutus and try to take down Homelander as well, and that journal or diary thing that she's been carrying around, she, drops it on the table in the Vought or the 7 conference room. So I'm wondering if like her secrets are in there, or if there's anything to be revealed from that journal. I'm curious to see what Sage's role will be in the upcoming finale.
And the journal has Queen Maeve on it also for whatever reason.
Yeah. It's a dangerous plan though, right? Because like
sure,
Homeland is a homicidal maniac, and to like say, oh yeah, I knew A-Train was a leak. Like we just saw a few scenes before that Homeland just literally ripped the man apart. Like I thought Sage was about to get the same treatment at one point in that scene when she said that. Like that's a ballsy. You might be smart, motherfucker, but that's a ballsy move to do.
Why do you think he let her go? Why do you think he didn't like laser brain her or whatever? Like he took out Annika, he took out, Webweaver. Why wouldn't he take out the person that he was conspiring with to, just because she knows too much?
That's a great question. She knows too much, and she's literally the smartest person on the fucking planet that's bested you in every single possible scenario. Like that will be the person to kill. Like that's a good question. I don't know why he didn't do it.
And that's why I question whether all of this is like part of a bigger plan that has yet to be revealed to us. And if Firecracker just thinks that she's bested Sage to any degree, because there's obviously been a rift between the two. And I'm very curious as to whether or not this is all part of the plan. If Homelander is currently in on it or not, he's just playing the role. I don't know. I'm really curious, because he says, well, while you're smart, I have wisdom. Right. So I'm not sure. I'm kind of preparing for maybe him to be in on this plan, but then I'm also kind of preparing for Sage to maybe just do something that's going to thwart his overall plan. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that Homelander is in on the plan. I think that he doesn't respect Sage because, she doesn't have any powers besides she's the smartest person in the world. Now, that would be a superpower if you're that smart, but he doesn't see it that way, because as you said, he said, while you have brains, I have wisdom, and he's in charge because of all his powers. But
right.
yeah, it's really interesting to see, like, what will happen in the finale, especially with Sage, because Sage, part of her, her plan and part of her duty in this episode was the fact that she was in charge of getting this shapeshifter Soup, who is going to be the assassin for the president on January 6th. So, it's interesting to see how that's going to play out also. I guess we can kind of transition to that because yes, there is a shape shifting Soup, which I feel like, have we seen one of these before? Was there one in Gen V, or I feel like we've seen so much.
Doppelganger is kind of
Doppelganger,
similar, not quite the same, because Doppelganger would actually just like morph into the person, including that one politician that made an appearance in the previous episode. Right. But no, the shapeshifter, this, to my recollection, is the first time we've seen this character, because it's tearing apart its skin. It's literally just like melting and peeling off its skin, which is funny for me, having just binged the hell out of Supernatural, because there are shapeshifters similar nature in Supernatural. So because Eric Kripke also was a creator of that show, I like that kind of tie-in of like the supernatural aspect into a world of soups. And that's the superpower, is shapeshifting into just about anybody, soup or human alike. Very cool.
No, it is. It's of course, like in this episode, the shapeshifter again of course takes the form of Annie, Starlight, and then of course no one knows that Starlight is no longer Starlight, and then the real Starlight's held captive while the shapeshifter is having sex with Huey in the costume, which a question to y'all as a callback. Earlier in the episode, Starlight's mom is upset with her because she had an abortion, and her mom's embarrassed because her friends are giving her a hard time. They don't want to be around her anymore. And then the mom says, she's like, well, she mentions like, well, why did Huey save the suit? And I'm like, how does the mom know that Huey saved the Starlight suit? Did y'all pick up on that? Or like, to me, that like there was a disconnect. It's like, are you trying to say like the mom and Huey have been communicating? I just didn't understand like that part of it. Brittany, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that prior to all the events that have happened this season, it might have been one of those things that it happened in between the end of season 4. I don't even know what season we're in anymore.
We're season 4, yeah.
The end of last season to the beginning of this season, because it was the end of last season that Starlight, quit being Starlight, right? She got rid of her suit. She threw it down the trash chute or whatever, and joined the boys as just Annie January. So that was, the symbolic way of her just parting ways with her soup life. But for whatever reasons, Huey is sentimental. He's got a hard time like letting go of things, people, and stuff in general, right? So it makes sense that he would hold on to something that sentimental, because it's a part of his girlfriend, right? A huge part of her life. He probably figured, she's going to want this at some point in time. And yes, he probably has tried to keep an open relationship with her mother, just to like,
How does the mom know that? That's the part I just don't like. To me, that was just
that's what I'm saying. He's probably kept in touch with her off air, like, in between the end of last season and the beginning of the season.
But that's just weird that comes into conversation.
It is.
Right. Yeah.
It is.
By the way, your hot daughter, I've been keeping her suit in the suitcase, hoping that she comes back to it so we can role play. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, I don't like, why does that conversation go about? Like, how does that is kind of weird though.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a conversation you would have, Frank, but anyway.
No, my girlfriend's mom.
Well, I don't know what you do with your life. Jeez. I don't want to know what you do on your second floor. Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. I mean, it's a weird idea, but I don't think it's something to really like harbor on too much. There's bigger things happening.
No, there definitely are. But one thing I always say about this show is there's like no wasted space. So like whenever they say something like that, like usually there's something to it. The connection to me just doesn't seem very strong. But anyway, moving on, like I did think that how, how the doppelganger got in contact with
Shapeshifter.
Starlight. I'm sorry, the shapeshifter. Well, how the shapeshifter got in contact with Starlight. I did like how that played out because Starlight's at a bar with Butcher, and this woman comes up.
It's kind of random.
The woman gets a selfie with Starlight, and like in this world, you see this happen so often that you don't. I didn't even really think much of it. Honestly, I thought, okay, just like a quick, like an extra got a scene or whatever, and then turns out that woman was the shapeshifter, and then she imprisoned Annie. So,
I knew something was up with her. It's like, why would they give a rando, that much close proximity to one of the main actors and also give her a line? And I'm like, that's gonna play out like either at the end of this episode or at some point. Like I was sus.
Okay. Frank, what did you think about it?
I was sort of caught off guard. I really thought that the real Annie and Hugh were having a role playing session for real. Like because like I should have known better because like throughout this whole season you haven't seen Annie or Hughie kiss, like no affection at all. Like, and maybe that kind of plays into like what Annie went through, the whole abortion thing, like not emotionally being there, kind of being distant in a way. Still loves Hughie, but like you haven't seen any affection towards him. So to go from that to like this free for all role play session, I was kind of like, whoa, that went from 0 to 90 real quick. Like that's crazy. But I should have caught that. But the affection, lack thereof, to all of a sudden a free for all was definitely should have taught to Clue.
Yeah, go ahead, Brittany.
I was just gonna say something because I don't know if this may have been on your mind, Justin, especially with like, how she would know, how the shapeshifter would know like that the costume was there and how she got access into their safe. It's that at least in the lore of what was shown in Supernatural with shapeshifters, they could, I believe, possess up to a certain point of memories of the person that they were taking the shape of. And so like, because it would seem kind of odd that a shapeshifter would just coincidentally be like, oh, well, you saved this super suit or whatever. And I know you fantasize about, I'm saying? It would have been just like really coincidental, but there's a reason. It's that they do possess, I think to a degree, some of the memories and conversations that have been previously been held between the person they're taking shape of and whomever else. So that shapeshifter potentially will know the plans of what the boys are up to. And it goes without saying that they're going to make Annie the shooter for the upcoming rally with the president-elect and make her the villain in this whole story.
Yeah, that's a good theory. That's probably what's going to happen, obviously, in the finale. The next thing I want to talk about here is let's talk about the Butcher, Kimiko, and Frenchie. Butcher has, Frenchie went to prison. Now he's out of prison 2 episodes later. Butcher breaks him out. He needs his help he needs Frenchie to help Samir with the virus. Basically the new plan is like they're going to create this new and improved virus to kill Homelander and Newman. Of course, Samir doesn't want to be a part of this because Newman is his love interest. And of course they have Zoe together. And, while, Frenchie's working with Samir, and then the first chance Samir gets, he stabs Kimiko with the virus. I got to say for a second, I thought we might lose Kimiko. Frank, what did you think about how that played out, where obviously Kimiko has like these like Wolverine healing abilities, and he stabbed her in the leg, and Frenchie's able to saw off her leg, and of course her leg can grow back like Deadpool. But what'd you think about the whole scene with Samir, Frenchie, and Kimiko and the virus?
I was about to have a whole like Kimiko Instagram like memorial, just go through her page and just kiss her goodbye because I thought she was done. I like it how conveniently there was a saw there, like right when it just plays perfectly to do what what needed to be done. No, that was ballsy. I mean, I don't blame Samir, man. Like, you wanted me to create a biological weapon that can potentially kill my wife and the mother of my child and my kid. Like, that's
Right.
I'm not cool with that. And before you take me down and them down, I'm gonna take y'all down. So I from the perspective, I understood Samir. And bitch, you took my leg off. Fuck y'all. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I like that's like
Yeah.
you got me limping around like a goddamn one-legged pogo stick on here trying to create concoction for this virus. I don't blame Samir, man. I would have been pissed too. But I'm glad Frenchie's came in for the save to save Kamiko. I gotta say this, man, about Butcher. He's done a lot of fuck shit in this series. Countless amounts of fuck shit. Like, him and Homelander are like going pound for pound. Like, what precise fucked up shit could we accomplish today?
Yeah.
To know that Frenchie is going through a terrible time, trials and tribulations of like what he's done, the guilt that he's done, and I'm sure he knows this. And to be like, you know what? You're my brother, you're my friend, you're my comrade, but fuck all that right now. I need to break you out to try to get this virus potion correct. But that was kind of fucked up. That was tough to watch. Like Frenchie is vehemently like going through it. Like, right, he's struggling, and like for Butcher to like, I mean, I'm glad to skip that scene of like Butcher breaking him out, because I would have been pissed to like see how he just totally just like disregarded his feelings of what he's going through for like his own self-interest of like getting this shit done to like kill Homelander and the vice president elect or whatever. So that kind of pissed me off with Butcher, man.
I mean, what? Why would Butcher care? Butcher's fucking dying. Like, he doesn't have to deal with this shit much longer. Like, I'm not trying to excuse what Butcher's doing. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying he has less than 6 months to live. Yeah. He's doing what he can. He's gonna be like, fuck it, I'm out of here after this. Like, I don't have to deal with this shit anymore.
Yeah, I guess for me it's the human element that's
oh, absolutely.
Like, I mean, these are people that you fought with side by side, you know, almost died with side by side, and like, it's just to like for him to not even reference that and acknowledge that, I thought was kind of fucked up. It was kind of a tough watch.
Think back to season 1 when we first met Frenchie. Frenchie wanted nothing to do with Butcher. Yeah. Absolutely nothing to do with Butcher. This is not out of character for Butcher to be this way. I mean, yes, we've seen development and Butcher be somewhat more caring because Ryan entered into the picture, but Butcher is who he is with the boys, and that's not going to change. Like, none whatsoever. Even with Huey.
Well, and that's my next point. I guess is the development and erosion of his character, up and down. Like Butch lost his brother in the most tragic way. Like, that's a guilt that he has to live with the rest of his life, and a lot of that he sees within Huey, and like that's why he kind of shows an affection with Huey. You've known Frenchie longer. Like, that's just like that. I would think that relationship will be as close, if not more tight. And like, you really haven't seen any affection towards Frenchie. You've seen it with Mother's Milk, you've seen it with Huey, but not Frenchie, which is weird because I think he's known Frenchie probably the longest, or close to the longest with Mother's Milk. I haven't seen that connection with him and Frenchie yet, as far as like any type of like intimacy and caring towards him and what he's going through, as you have seen with him with Mother's Milk and Huey.
It may come to pass. We just haven't gotten to that point yet. Maybe Butcher just needs to come to Jesus moment, just like Frenchie already did. I don't know.
Well, the way this episode ends, it's definitely a Butcher comes to the hospital moment because he passes out in the bar.
Does he go to the hospital though?
Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously someone else is, going to call 911 or whatever, because he goes face.
Butcher's
face
like,
first. Yeah.
Butcher's like, call an ambulance, but not for me. I mean, because Kessler finally came back out, after being stowed away during that fight with Deep and Noir and Starlight and them. And he sits at the bar and he's just smiling, you know, because he's been pissed throughout this whole episode of, I say he as if he's an actual real being, but he didn't want Butcher to reveal the secret of bringing Frenchie back into the fold and that kind of thing, right? He wanted it to be just not said. And when Butcher finally passes out, like you said, Kessler like kind of turns and has a smile on his face. He's like, time to go to work, you know? So I think all those people in that bar are going to be massacred, just like Ezekiel was.
Oh,
Frank, your thoughts?
I'm with you on that. I think whoever's in close proximity in that bar is going to be like, I can see the next episode opening up with like Butcher bloodied and like just seeing flashbacks of him just having a free for all in that bar, killing everybody.
Yep. The innocent are dying. Butcher has no recollection of it whatsoever, and Kessler's just there on his shoulder. Also, Becca, I'm sure, will make another appearance. So it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough for Butcher. I mean, yeah.
I gotta say, we're going into the season finale, which sounds kind of weird to me because it feels like this season has gone by quicker than the previous seasons. And I mean, every season
we get
of the
3
boys,
episodes, you know, dropped at once.
They do that every year, but I mean, like, you know, like this will be the 32nd episode coming up soon, and I think The Boys has been a very good show for that whole run. But for whatever reason, this season, while I think it's been a good season, I don't feel like I don't feel like personally like I'm ready for it to be the finale. I don't feel like the story feels like it's ready to be the finale. Now, granted, these episodes pack a lot into it. That's why, you know, we're trying to talk about 2 episodes, which is honestly too much because there's so much to talk about with The Boys. And so much can happen in the finale, obviously. But I don't know. Do y'all agree or you know, what do you feel about that, Frank? Do you feel like it's time for the finale, or is it kind of like it feels like it could be a couple episodes down the road?
I think it really depends on what they put in the last episode. Like if it's an ultimate cliffhanger that kind of like just leaves the story on like on a cliff for like another year plus, then I think it'll be fitting. I mean, for me, 8 episodes is never enough. Like, I mean, I love this show. I wish we got 10 and it could kind of like give me, you know, hour-long 10-episode seasons. But I mean, I think it all depends on what they put in the last episode and like how they leave it. And if it's like one of those things where like there's still a lot of questions that's not answered, then it's gonna feel like it's rushed. But if it's like one of those things where like you have 3 or 4 tenets of different storylines going on and like all of them, you know, like an ultimate cliffhanger at the same time, then I think it'll be fitting.
Yeah, I kind of feel like this season, unfortunately, has probably been like kind of one of the more weaker of the seasons that we've been given. Interesting story for sure, but like it's not up there like the others have been for me personally. I feel like these last 2 episodes will probably be the most development that we'll get for this whole season, right? It's only 8 episodes per season, correct? Yeah. So I think these last 2 episodes are probably going to be filled with like the most sort of information, and then it's just going to like leave you hanging. One thing The Boys does well are cliffhangers, that's for sure. And I think the finale cliffhangers is not going to be any different. It's going to leave us wanting more, which is great. But I do feel that they just like need to go ahead and wrap up this season. I am still wondering if anything, why they decided to bring Huey's mom back into the picture or just into the picture at all. Like, does she play a bigger role at all? I was talking with someone at work who suggested that maybe Huey's mom is a shapeshifter. You know, why would they bring her in? Period. And unless it was just to drive home the fact that Huey was losing one parent, but he was gaining back another. Like, I don't know. I think that was kind of a weird addition to the show, and if it's not going to really go anywhere. But if they were able to tie it back to where it's his mother who is a soup, I mean, she does work for Vought. We know that much. I don't know. There seems to be a lot of loose ends with this season for me personally. So I feel like, we need to wrap up this season.
Yeah, well, the season will wrap next week. We'll be talking about the finale, or actually this week, but we'll talk about it next week. Before we get out of here, any final thoughts or anything we didn't talk about that y'all want to mention from episode 7?
Just more breast milk, man. Just more breast milk. Man, that's all I ask.
No, I'm curious to see if the plan will actually come through, if Sage is going to upstage anything at all, or if, I don't know. Will Stan Edgar come back? I need to know. I mean, we got him back for an episode. I'd like to see him come back to some capacity. Will Victoria be successful with becoming maybe the president with this coup? I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah, to me, it's all up in the air. There's a lot of players on the board, a lot of pieces out there. We'll see how they're played in the finale. So now you know what we think about. Oh, go ahead, Frank.
No, I was going to say, I wonder if any of the characters from Gen V are going to show up in this finale to continue the Gen V storyline going in season 2. Because I know last we saw they were locked up, I think, in Seven Tower, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if that's going to kind of play like a plug, kind of how Butcher playing a plug in the finale of Gen V. I wonder how maybe the heroes the protagonists in Seven Tower get loose and it plays into the season 2 of Gen V.
That would be interesting, because let's not forget that Frenchie is going to hopefully get the virus out of Kimiko's severed leg, and they're going to try to make it as powerful enough to maybe take out Newman. Homelander obviously is going to be reserved for the final season, I would imagine. So if Gen V characters somehow play a role in that would be interesting. That would be very interesting to me.
Yeah, no, like I said, a lot of stuff out there. Looking forward to finding out what happens in the finale. We will talk about that next week. But now you know what we thought about the 6th and 7th episode of the season of The Boys. We want to know what you think about it. And Brittany, how can people let us know?
Hey, we always invite everyone to join us in our live chats, just like King B. Johnson, Mel of Geeking Out with Melly Mel, Lord Toxic. Thank you so much for being here as well. Lord Toxic. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, it's a great name. Rakib was here. Anyone else I might have missed, I apologize. But thank you all so much for taking time out of your day to join us for our review of The Boys episode season 6 and 7. If you haven't joined us for a live chat, we ask you to go ahead and hit that notification bell, as well as hit the like button on this episode. And don't forget to subscribe. That way you can take part in our next pod, which is going to be the finale review for The Boys. And quickly, I'm just going to say it here. Follow us on social media. And also don't forget to follow us on our audio podcasts that it's on Google and Apple, and give us a 5-star rating.
Appreciate it, Brittany. So for Brittany and for Frank, I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.